This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
Well, hey there, we have missed you. Yes, glad to have you along for another edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor. It's a new year, but the lineup and the mission remains the same. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. Ditto what Ray just said. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great show for you coming up. The Georgia Farm Monitor today says farewell to one of its longtime leaders. Chief Operating Officer Wayne Daniel talks about retirement and what 4 decades at Farm Bureau has meant to him. Also on the program, American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, why he feels a global trade partnership is vital to American agriculture and what he says you, the farmer, can do to get involved.
And then later, the Monitor also chats with Georgia Ag Commissioner Gary Black, his thoughts about the many challenges we faced in 2016 and what he hopes will happen in 2017. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Later this month, the Georgia Farm Bureau bids farewell to Chief Operating Officer Wayne Daniel, who is retiring after what can only be described as an incredible 4 decades of service. His leadership helping to shape what Farm Bureau has become today, and legacy, one that certainly will not be forgotten.
I am Wayne Daniel. I have been blessed and fortunate to have spent 40 years with Georgia Farm Bureau. That 40-year opportunity is coming to an end. It's exciting, but at the same time, there's some anxiety because I'm leaving part of my family. My position today is Chief Operating Officer. I work very closely with the board and with the president and our other officers. It's my responsibility to make sure that the overall success of the operation is handled in a way that we can reap the best benefits. I have been fortunate to work with 6 different state presidents. I started with Emmett Reynolds from Araby, Crisp County, moved on to Mr. Nash from Upson County, on to Mr. Ewing from Newton County, Mr. Dollar from Thomas County, Mr. Duvall from Greene County, and now President Long, our current president, who is from Bainbridge, Georgia, Decatur County. And that is somewhat of a success in itself to have worked with 6 different presidents. All of them good men who had a very strong desire to make the organization better. We are truly a remarkable organization that is a general farm organization that crosses all sectors of agriculture, where there are individual, specific commodity groups that represent everything that's growing in the state. But we're the only one that is a general organization saying that what's good for beef cattle needs to be also good for corn producers. And that makes us unique in our land today. If I had an opportunity to tell everybody that I've worked with over these 40 years, which is a lot of people. I've served with almost 200 different board members during that 40-year career. I've sat in attendance to over 1,700 board meetings, not just within the Farm Bureau, Georgia Farm Bureau, but with community endeavors and so forth. But you know, obviously I would have to say thank you, and that I'll cherish all the mentoring that I received from, because I do believe that you learn as long as you're willing to learn. I would hope that when I leave, people will remember me as a person that loved his God, that loved his family, and did his job.
And we certainly wish Wayne the best. Now, meantime, with agriculture being Georgia's #1 industry, it's important to support programs that promote educational awareness about agriculture to all ages. And that's the main mission for the GFB Foundation for Agriculture, as they provide information, leadership opportunities, and even scholarships to those interested in going into the field. Damon Jones has the story.
With more and more people growing up away from the farm, it's now more important than ever to educate both children and adults about agriculture, as well as highlight its importance to everyday life. And that's why a new program started by the Georgia Farm Bureau a couple of years back is so essential.
The main purpose of the Georgia Farm Bureau Foundation for Agriculture is to spread agricultural literacy across the state and to educate consumers about where their food and fiber comes from. The pillars of the foundation are scholarships, agriculture in the classroom, leadership opportunities, and consumer awareness.
And one of those pillars is very evident in schools around the state as children take part in a number of activities that emphasize the importance of agriculture.
One of our main focuses is the Agriculture in the Classroom program. We work with our Agriculture in the Classroom coordinator, Donna Rocker, to put on teacher workshops across the state to educate teachers so that they can in turn educate their students, who will go home and talk to their parents and explain to their parents the things that they've learned about agriculture in the classroom that day.
And it's not the only program geared towards educating the future generation, as the foundation is also the main sponsor for the annual Junior National Livestock Show in Perry. It's a partnership that is beneficial to both the kids and the agricultural industry.
One of our pillars of the foundation is leadership opportunities, and through that we're proud to sponsor Georgia 4-H and FFA. And through our sponsorship of the State Livestock Show winners, we hope to develop relationships with these students and help to make sure that there's a future generation of agriculturalists available.
My name is Casey Jackson, and I'm from Banks County, and I just won the Grand Champion Doe at the Georgia National Livestock Fair. I won a plaque kind of plate thing, and I won a really big check.
While the prizes and accolades are a draw for showing livestock, it's really the long-term benefits that will come in handy for the kids.
I've learned responsibilities, and I've learned friendships and how to lose, and I've learned a lot from showing animals.
And it's not just education the foundation is providing, but also a number of scholarships to those hoping to get into the industry. It's just one of the many things they are excited about heading into the new year.
In February, we've got our scholarship applications due. We are excited to be offering over $60,000 worth of scholarships to qualified students. More information on the scholarships available and how to apply is available on our website. And you can go on there and apply. They're due February 3rd, 2017. And then, of course, after that, we'll be presenting checks to the State Livestock Show winners in Perry at the end of February. And then, of course, our main event of the year is the Gala, which will be in March. The foundation supports a lot of really important things across the state, and in order for us to continue to make sure agriculture is viable, it's important to support that. So we hope that you'll join us in that mission.
For more information on the foundation and how you can support it, either visit their page on Facebook or the website at www.gfbfoundation.org. Reporting from Macon, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Damon, thank you very much. Up next,
Agriculture is absolutely dependent on trade, and we have to lower those barriers that are in that Pacific Rim to be able to get to the growingest middle-class group of people in the world.
TPP. Donald Trump calls it a bad deal. American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall has some suggestions. For American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall, 2017 could turn out to be even a bigger challenge than 2016. Now, you may recall the Monitor spent some time with President Duvall during last month's GFB convention, where we discussed everything from his role as American Farm Bureau President to what he hopes to accomplish in the upcoming year. Today, in part 2 of that conversation, President Duvall talks about the controversial Trans-Pacific Partnership and preparations for the next Farm Bill.
I'm real proud of the steps we've taken this year, and staff and I got together and we tried to talk about how we prepare our grassroots across America to get ready for the next Farm Bill. So we created a task force, a Farm Bill working group. It's not a task force, but a working group. And that's made up of 16 state staff persons that work for state farm bureaus across America. And each one of those 16 members of that working group was assigned other states that weren't represented on the working group so that they could communicate with those other states. We tried to keep the group small enough to where it could be really nimble and work.
and we accomplished that. But we wanted to make sure that the states that didn't have a representative on there had their voices heard. So we had really good communications between members of the working group and the states that weren't represented. They had several face-to-face meetings. We've generated a number, I think it's 30 or more white pages that are on our website. We also have generated some videos of some of those members of that working group to talk about the issues of the Farm Bill that we're operating under now. Now, this is not staff members' thoughts. This is thoughts that they've heard from their membership. They brought to the table. We put them in those videos and in the white papers, put them back out to our grassroots to generate very positive conversation about where are the cracks, or where are the places we need to tweak the Farm Bill, what do we need to fix, and let the grassroots bring us the policies that'll help us build the 2018 Farm Bill. So I'm real proud of the process we went through. Of course, nothing's ever perfect, and you know we've learned some things along the way, but we think that we've generated some materials that can generate some really positive conversation.
I am going to issue our notification of intent to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a potential disaster for our country. Instead, we will negotiate fair bilateral trade deals that bring jobs and industry back onto American shores.
For farmers who are watching this, President Duvall, what can they do to try to get this agenda passed?
Well, we need to continue to call our representatives that represent us up on Capitol Hill and tell them how important trade is to agriculture. We don't care whether it's TPP or whatever Mr. Trump wants to call it. Mr. Trump is a businessman. He's not against trade. He doesn't like TPP. He says it's not fair trade in TPP. So what we're expecting him to do is take that TPP treaty, fix what he thinks wrong in it, make it free trade, and let's move on down the road, because agriculture is absolutely dependent on trade, and we have to lower those barriers that are in that Pacific Rim to be able to get to the growingest middle class group of people in the world. You know, when you talk about 95% of the population of the world living outside of America, we've saturated the market here. The only way agriculture is going to thrive and be healthy in America is that we can sell our products overseas. So I encourage our members to be part of their county farm bureau, be part of their state farm bureau, and meet the call to action when it comes to TPP and any other issue that faces us, because their efforts to call that congressman and senator and say how important TPP or anything else that's facing us is so valuable to what we do each and every day. It makes what I do a reality to those people that I talk to.
Just a reminder, if you missed any part of the story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Once there, you can browse the archive of stories dating as far back as 2009.
And once you're done watching all those informative stories, keep clicking and like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page we've set up for you. If you have a story idea, or if you just want to leave us a comment or suggestion, feel free to send us a message either on Facebook or at the address there on your television screen. That is news@farm-monitor.com. As you may already know, Georgia is the #1 producer of pecans in the nation, and as the crop gets to be more in demand, it benefits Georgia growers as well as the state's economy. In 2016, however, we witnessed firsthand the many challenges that growers faced. The Monitor's Mark Wildman takes a look back.
Every year as the leaves change and winter approaches, pecan orchards around the state are buzzing with activity. Harvest equipment moves through the orchards, and one of Georgia's most valuable commodities are gathered up and shipped to consumers all over the world. This year was a challenge, though, for many growers, as dry weather took its toll on many pecan orchards.
It's been great harvest conditions, but it has caused some issues with some varieties, especially Stewart, opening up and those shucks splitting. They've been a little bit delayed. Stewart has a little bit of a problem with that anyway. It has a kind of a delayed shuck split. But when you throw a heavy crop and dry weather on top of that, it causes it to be even a little more delayed.
Along with dry weather, storms moved through the pecan growing areas of the state and caused numerous problems for growers.
Of course, we had 2 storms come through September, and then I think early October we had another one. That one turned out to be the worst, Hurricane Matthew, where we had pretty much from around Baxley going up through Tattnall County on up into Screven County, kind of along that line. There was some significant damage. I've heard in Tattnall County, I've heard a lot of orchards, 10 to 30% of the trees in those orchards being knocked down from the wind.
In and around Waycross, there was plenty of damage that cost growers a lot of time and money.
We spent about 5 weeks cleaning up. That would be cumulative from both storms. Certainly added labor costs to the bottom line that we were not anticipating having to pay. There are some farms that have called and just said they're not doing anything. Some farms that will be out of business due to the fact that they have lost 75 to 80% of their trees due to the hurricanes. It took about 50% of our crop out, plus added labor cost. Overall, I'm going to be positive about it and say that I think we're setting up for a very good crop next year. I do believe that the crop loss in the eastern Georgia pecan belt would be beneficial to the price in that it has reduced overall Georgia volume by a fair margin.
Over the years, pecans have grown in popularity overseas, and a large percentage of the crop is exported to China. And even though there are thousands of new acres being planted in Georgia, it will be years before these orchards start producing. So the future is very bright for Georgia pecans. Reporting for the Georgia Farm Monitor, I'm Mark Wildman.
Mark, thank you so much. So what's next for Georgia Grown and Georgia Ag in 2017? Commissioner Gary Black weighs in when the Georgia Farm Monitor continues.
A machine that's been around a while, but it's just getting broken in. Our cotton crop has been picked, but it still needs work. That's when it goes to a gin, like this replica of a commercial unit housed at UT's Ag Research Center in Jackson. Up top, the crop is fed into the machine where it separates lint from the seed. Lint is used to make clothing, and oil is extracted from the seed for food or cosmetics.
And so it's simply using saws to saw the lint and pull the lint through and leave the seed on the other side. We have 2 lint cleaners. It goes through those 2 lint cleaners, then a condenser, and then from that condenser it's moved into the bale press.
Dr. Bob Hayes says it's unique for a university to have its own gin. This unit is for cotton grown in variety testing programs with UTIA, as well as samples from as far away as Florida and Texas. The gin measures yield and quality, data passed on to farmers to determine the value of their crop.
So it allows us to provide them a complete package of information to make wise decisions for their farm.
This old boy will celebrate his 50th birthday next year. Yes, this gin is nearly half a century old, and it's still productive. In a typical year, they'll process more than 2,500 samples here.
This facility was built with roughly $6,000 in 1968, so very proud the industry came together and pieced this machine.
Dr. Tyson Raper is UTIA's cotton specialist and uses the gin in his research. He says this scaled-down version of a commercial gin is a valuable piece of science.
Tremendous tool. So we're looking at one of about 6 in the country. And this gin is very unique in that we can process a very, very small sample size to get very accurate turnout and fiber quality numbers.
The old gin requires frequent upkeep, but researchers here believe it should still be cranking for years to come. Does it have another half-century in it? Could be. Here, when plants meet machine, technology allows us to get work done and learn. This is Charles Denny reporting.
Like Zippy Duvall, Georgia Agricultural Commissioner Gary Black has a positive outlook for 2017.
Immediately following our interview with President Duvall, Commissioner Black also jumped in the hot seat for a series of topics, including one that continues to get bigger and bigger with each passing year. I want to start with Georgia Grown. So much demand right now for locally produced products. If you will, can you provide us with an update on the many initiatives going on right now, whether it be restaurants, whether it be supermarkets, all the initiatives going on with Georgia Grown right now?
Right, it's been a pretty amazing ride now for a little over 5 years since the reintroduction of this program to Georgia, and now we're busily making sure certainly everybody in the country, and then from a global perspective, we think there's some good marketing opportunities there too. Mm-hmm. But our basic membership base is very strong. We'll be probably north of 900, north of 600, approaching 700 license holders right now. Mm-hmm. And there are a wide range of companies, all the way from at the farm level to the processing and manufacturing, and then the support mechanisms that are very important to the industry. A wide range of businesses, and they're seeing the value in using the brand. So mm-hmm. that's cool. Some really outstanding retail partners: Kroger, Publix, Walmart, certainly the Harvey's chain, many independent grocers. We've made really good strides this year with independent grocers.
Right. So the potential is endless.
It's just crazy. Our Subway partnership this year was pretty amazing, and I think that they've been very pleased with aligning with the programs.
2016, very tough for Georgia Agricultural Commissioner. Drought conditions, storms, farmers lost a lot of money. What are you hoping for in 2017?
I've heard a number of the people, particularly pecan. I can remember several stories back from Hermine and Matthew where there was damage, where people, but I heard things like this. We had a great crop, but we still have a good crop. Mm-hmm. I heard, we lost several hundred trees, but I have thousands of trees still standing.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, speaks well for the spirit of the Georgia farm family. Right. And that's why we're real glad to work with y'all, and we're blessed to kind of work with a terrific group of business people that exhibit that spirit every day.
Commissioner, my final question for you. It's well documented, the tension that other state farm bureaus have with their Georgia Department of Agriculture's or their governors. Here in Georgia, it's never been like that. It's always been a big happy family, always been one group, and now into President Long's tenure, year plus, it continues. How rare is that we all have this good relationship?
We're asking this question. This is the best example. Gerald Long calls, mm-hmm. and the immediate reaction is, "Oh boy." I mean, we have an opportunity. Mm-hmm. We get to serve together. I can't wait to talk to him.
Right.
Because it starts with leadership, Ray. Every time we're able to have a chance to visit, it's about solving. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to chase. Maybe there's a marketing opportunity. Maybe there's an opportunity to solve a problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's certainly the way I look through it, and I hope he does. I feel like he does the same. If there's not a level of trust between leadership, then you're destined to failure. And so there's no. I don't have a greater friend in this enterprise than President Long and your board and others, and I hope they'll think the same about our operation as well.
And yes, I do believe the feeling is mutual as well. Finally today, we have a new addition to the Farm Monitor family.
Yes, congratulations to Ranger Nick and his wife Jessica on the recent birth of their first child. Miles Jackson Furman, born at 2:36 p.m. on December 28th. He checked in at 6 pounds, 13 ounces, 21 inches long. According to Nick, mom and baby are doing outstanding.
And like you said, very good Southern name, Miles Jackson Furman, even though Nick is from Maryland. Little Ranger Miles, I like it. I can see it now. Well, that is going to do it for us. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Have a great week.